Good afternoon, evening. It is Tuesday, December 9th, 2025. It is 4 o'clock, and this is the regular business meeting of the Jefferson Public Utility District Board of Commissioners. My name is Jeff Randall. I am president of the board, and I am calling this meeting to order. Jefferson PUD will be offering both virtual online meetings as well as in-person meetings unless advance notice is provided. Online participant audio will be muted upon entry. Please unmute at the appropriate time to speak, and if you're calling in, use *6 to mute and unmute and *9 to raise a hand or request to speak. Let's do a roll call of commissioners. My name is Jeff Randall. I'm Commissioner for District 1 and President of the Board.
Kenneth Collins, Commissioner, District 2.
Dan Tupper, Commissioner for District 3.
All right, we have a somewhat lengthy agenda. Do we have any changes to the agenda, or are we good to approve it?
We would like to remove item 9.5, the credit card policy procedure.
Okay, and that one is under new business. Any objections to that? And what's the plan on that? Is that going to come back at the next meeting, or?
We'll bring it back at the next meeting.
Okay. Any other changes, Jean?
No, that is all.
Okay. Can I have a motion to
I'll
approve the
make a
modification?
motion to accept the agenda as amended.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second to accept the modified agenda. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye. And we've approved the agenda and made it a little shorter. Okay, next item is public comment. The public comment period allows members of the public to comment, limited to 3 minutes each, on any items not specifically listed on the agenda or for items listed on the consent agenda. Prior to any public comment, members of the public must first be recognized by the president and are not permitted to disrupt, disturb, or otherwise impede the orderly conduct and fair progress of the commission's meeting. After an initial warning by the president or the designated chair, individuals who intentionally violate these guidelines through actual disruption of the commission meeting will be dropped from the meeting. And Dan, since I have kind of a limited view of the room, would you mind recognizing any folks that are present and interested in speaking?
I can do that. So, Philip Stover, you can go first, 3 minutes.
Okay, thanks. Philip Stover, District 1. I have a couple questions that I hope can be answered in that section. Earlier this year, we heard that there were going to be some improvements made before the cold snap to help offload the Hastings substation loading. And I saw in the news that there's a new load break switch that appears to balance the load better for between the Dana Roberts and Hastings substation. So what I want to do is confirm that this load break switch was the what was being talked about as an improvement for this year, and also if there's anything else that wasn't in this article that's already being done or have been done in that Hastings regard. I'd like to know about that too.
Is that your whole comment, Phil?
Pardon?
Is that all of your comment?
One other question.
Go ahead.
Staff, and that is just, I think December was the month to hear about BEAD funding, and I don't know if it's too early to know about it, but if there's anything new, I'd be interested in that as well.
Okay, so I guess staff, to the extent you're comfortable responding to those questions and to the extent you're not and want to wait until Joe's back, if you wouldn't mind addressing that during the staff report part. And Dan, who's next?
Anybody else? Nobody else in the room.
Anybody online? I don't see anybody here.
I don't see anybody.
Okay.
You.
Then we have completed the public comment portion. So leadership reports. I guess we got a new name for this. So Jean, you're filling in for Joe Wilson.
I am. And a response to Phil, I am not up to speed on that article. I'm happy to review and get back to you, or have Joe get back to you when he returns. If you want to email me the details, I'll look into it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just say that Joe has mentioned at prior meetings, and I may get this wrong, but I thought there were some three-phase issues in that area too, where some different things were done. But anyway, I think we need to let Joe come back for you to hit him with that one, Phil. And then, Will, did you have any response on the bead question?
Well, Jeff.
Hold on.
Oh,
Jeff.
sorry.
Jimmy Scarborough's in the room. I don't know if Jimmy wants to tackle that or not.
Yeah, so that switch was installed, Phil, or Blue Heron Middle School. By doing that, we were able to transfer about roughly 3 megs from Hastings to Dana Roberts. So now both stations are operating fairly even, so the next cold event, we should be fine at Hastings. I think the last time we were over by about 3 megs over the nameplate, so right now it's looking good. Thank you.
Thank you, Jimmy.
And Will, any response to the bead question?
The BEAD application is still in review with the NTIA. We could hear any day. We don't know when exactly. They're working through. I think they've announced awards to 12 or 13 states, and they're just going down the list.
Okay, thank you. So I guess, Jean, please continue with whatever leadership reports were planned.
Okay. Easy bookkeeping. So there's not going to be any collections in the agenda for December. So January, you will have twice the amount of collections. It's just because it's 2 months in one when you get to that. I'd like to take a minute to introduce Amanda Isaac. She's our interim finance director, and thank you.
And Amanda's been with us for quite some time.
She has.
How long has that been, Amanda?
6.5 years.
Nice.
And
Thank you for stepping in.
Thank you for having me.
Melanie.
Thank you, Jean. I wanted to take a moment to thank my team, to thank the PUD too. I've been on leave of absence and I just returned last week. And my team did an incredible job making sure that the HR operations continued smoothly. That's Stephanie Witheridge, our HR coordinator, Jeff Dodd, our safety manager, and Laura Fabian. Jeff and Stephanie took on a lot while I was gone, especially Stephanie. She took on a significant amount of responsibilities. So I wanted to say thank you to her and just recognize her for the great work that she did. And that's it.
Great, and welcome back, Melanie.
Yes, thank you.
And that is all we have for leadership announcements.
Okay, any questions from commissioners?
None here.
Okay, we will then move on to commissioner reports. I can't remember who went first last time, so I'll just ask Dan if you don't mind going first.
No, it's going to be short. So I attended the BOC Gateway on November 19th, met with Joe Wilson on November 24th. I attended our BOC special meeting on December 2nd. I attended the ICG meeting on December 4th. I'm going to attend the ICG meeting on December 11th. I will meet with Joe Wilson on December 22nd, and I'm going to attend the Jefferson Fire Chiefs meeting on January 5th. And hopefully we can put some time aside, maybe Jeff, if you're going last, to talk about EDC and what happened at the ICG meeting and all that stuff.
Sure, I'm happy to fill in a little details, even though both of you were there at the ICG, but I can talk a little bit about the EDC meeting. Ken?
That concludes my report.
Thanks, Dan.
That was incredibly short.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, thank you. So I attended on the 19th the special board meeting, met with the general manager on the 24th of November, met with legal counsel on the 26th, met again with the general manager on the 1st of December, attended the special board meeting on the 2nd, had a meeting with the general manager on the 4th, as well as attending the ICG meeting. Looking ahead, I may be late, but I'll try to catch part of Thursday's ICG meeting. On my calendar is the meeting for the general manager on the 22nd, the 29th, and the 5th. And that's my report.
Okay, thanks, Ken. Get up to the top of mine. So, since our last meeting, attended the special meeting we had on Sims Way, the rate meeting we had on the 12th or on the 2nd of December. So, at the last EDC board meeting, David Balliff had been gone on some personal leave at the prior meeting. So, he was back and he had listened to our prior meeting. And at that prior meeting, we'd gone through kind of what David had developed as the strategic plan for 2026 and 2027. Actually, it's like the second half of 20. Yeah. Anyway, two-year strategic plan for the EDC. He listened to our discussion, and then we further discussed people's comments, and he's incorporating edits to that. So it's basically a functional plan of what kinds of things should the EDC be involved with. And when that is done and adopted by the board, I will be happy to share it with both of you. Let's see. The good news was with the restart of the federal government, funding has again flowing through on the Recompete grant, and EDC has been conducting classes for training business advisors who would help small businesses in the community. And those folks, I think, have now graduated. So that was kind of a successful thing. And the EDC budget is looking better for the remainder. And they have June to June calendar or budget years. And they had gone from a 8K deficit to now a projected 71K budget surplus, mainly through managing some staff departures and bringing people on and reassigning some duties internally that had been contracted out. So I think David is doing a really fine job using his staff, using tools and skills they have both in communication and in budget tracking, and he's saving money, and he's pivoting the organization for greater engagement with the other public partners who are funding the EDC, and really taking on this new role of helping us define an economic development strategy that we can all the public partners agree on, while still being effective and looking at how can they support small businesses, retention, expansion, etc. I guess I'll just pause. Oh, and then we had officer elections, and Karen Bennett will be the new president of the board. I am now the vice president of the board. Scott Rogers is secretary, and Monica McHager is the treasurer. Any questions on EDC?
Yeah, I have a couple, Jeff. There was two prongs to the meeting. One was the Glen Cove potential project.
Oh, I see. I was covering EDC, but you go ahead. You want to jump to ICG?
Well, I think the EDC ties into it.
Yep.
And the second part of it was the EDC's economic plan framework that's being talked about. How much input do they want and need from us? I mean, I'm going to talk to Joe about what's going on with him and the Public Sector Council, the other administrators, about what's going on this front on economic development when I meet with him on the 22nd. So what input are they looking from us on the EDC portion of this?
This is really interesting, and you were there for the ICG meeting.
Kind of caught me off guard a little bit. So
which one, the ICG meeting or the EDC part?
The EDC part.
So these things, it's kind of like a dog chasing his tail. It's like, where does it begin and where does it end? So if you remember, the four-party agreement talked about an economic framework strategy, some portion of those words, and it talked about the EDC playing a role, and we got public members, we got our positions authorized to be on the board of the EDC in exchange for the funding that we're offering. So there was this kind of mandate to the EDC to be more involved in economic development strategy. It wasn't clearly defined that, hey, EDC, you're going to write it and here's some money to do it and here's what it's supposed to address. It was kind of vague, but there was clearly a role that I think the four partners wanted the EDC to play, and they've changed directors since then. The new director, I think, is taking in input that he's getting from the executives and attending the ICG meetings, and I think he is also trying to figure out what does this mean while the board members are providing input. So I think once the strategic plan is done, hopefully at the next board meeting it'll be done and approved, and I can share that with you. That might answer some of your questions. So another part of your question, though, gets to this, and you saw it at the ICG meeting. We were talking about, okay, what is this economic framework strategy that we're talking about that's supposed to be developed? And then Greg proceeded to talk about Glen Cove and these very specific surveys that were done and looking at the land use regulations. And there was money, I think, that came from the PIF board to fund these studies. And there was work with the city to identify what infrastructure could be needed. And the surveys asked the business owners, landowners, if they wanted it. All those questions, and then what should, should regulation changes occur at Glen Cove to allow different kinds of economic development that maybe aren't happening right now? Is there infrastructure that's missing? How would the infrastructure be paid for? To me, that was an example at a micro level of developing an economic development strategy for one part of our county. Greg and everybody else involved was doing it. So then we were talking about, okay, what does that mean for the whole county? Well, it depends. If we're talking about the airport, if we're talking about ag lands, if we're talking about city property. So I think some of it is to be determined, but I think the EDC absolutely has a role to play. I think we have the right director to help us engage in those discussions. And one of the things that's in the EDC strategy is doing a white paper and on what other EDCs are doing in their areas, and kind of doing an assessment for, okay, in this county, how many acres of industrial land do they have? How many acres of this? Developing some metrics that we might also be able to use and compare ourselves with other counties. So anyway, it's happening. I think we've got the right people in place, and there's going to be some discussions that happen at the EDC, which I think are mainly feedback for David on how the board thinks he should engage, and then these other discussions that are going to happen at the ICG, which is the four parties, and what roles do we have? And then getting back to your other question is, what's the Jefferson PUD's role in all of this? And that's a discussion for us to have. So I don't know if I answered your question. I did the best I could.
Well, I'll just drill down to one particular issue, and that was the discussion around getting a consultant to do this framework, to help develop the framework for the EDC's plan.
Yeah.
And I was just curious of what the real timeline is. It seemed like there was some urgency in that. And so I didn't know how much discussion we need to have. We kind of had consensus at the meeting that we were okay with another $5,000, depending on what everybody else decides. They may go with a consultant, they may not. So I just wanted to find out how, what our conversations need to be between now and the time that they would want that money.
Yeah, I mean, you were there. We had consensus with our board, because that was a special meeting of our board, that we had no problem authorizing the general manager to invest $5,000 and join it with, the money from the other four partners to seek out a consultant. And you heard that some people didn't want a consultant, some people wanted the EDC to do it, and it got, in my view, it kind of got kicked back to Aaron Berg and the executives to prepare a short proposal of what are we getting for our money and who would they seek to have the work done by. And then I'm guessing we would have more discussion either with our individual boards outside of an ICG meeting or at the next ICG meeting. And Ken, I see you have your hand up.
I do. I got the impression that each of the governmental entities had agreed to meet separately and come up with some sort of a vision of what economic development looks like from their perspective in Jefferson County. So probably early next year, we might want to do a workshop in order to accomplish that goal. The next EDC meeting is February sometime.
You mean the ICG?
I'm sorry, the ICG is February.
I
yes.
think it's in February is what I recall. Well, Gene, could we ask that you put a item on the next regular business meeting just as an introduction, just so we can talk about what's being done, and then Joe can share what he knows, and then maybe out of that we could do exactly what Ken's talking about, schedule a workshop and discuss what's our role. Does that sound?
Timeline? Yeah, I was just concerned that the next meeting in February, how much time we had to accomplish with everything else we're going to have going on, that very discussion about what our vision would be for economic development and the PUD's role in that.
Yeah, I don't think it has to be too complicated because I see our role as infrastructure. So, these different land areas we're talking about, what are the limits in providing the infrastructure, who pays, what's needed? I think those are kind of the discussions. But so is that okay with you guys? Ask for that item to be on the first agenda in December as just a starting point, and then we can maybe set another meeting and hopefully be done with whatever discussion we need to have by the time the ICG meets in February.
Yep, thank you.
Cool.
Yes.
Okay, so back to my report. I'll try and get through it more quickly now. Sorry. Attended the NODC meeting the same day. The main thing I learned out of that was I think we had all heard that Clallam was getting some money to build high-speed fiber kind of west of Port Angeles, and that was federal money, and that money has now been pulled. And the federal government, my understanding is the federal government is saying, nope, we don't need to provide fiber to serve those areas. We can serve those areas with satellite. And the second thing I heard was that the federal government is now looking at states with open access laws, as they don't want to provide money to states with open access laws. But that was kind of I almost say a hearsay sort of thing, but that was what the Karen Affeld of NODC said. So, but they lost their money for their fiber that they were going to build. Moving on, I thought David did a great job at the ICG meeting, and Karen Affeld was there also from the NODC. And I think we basically said we want to dedicate next year at the ICG to talking about economic development and developing a framework. And I think that's a really good use of that group and our time and bringing our skill sets together. I'm here in Spokane. We've got a no-one at dinner tonight and our board meetings tomorrow. And I will be at the ICG holiday gathering Thursday. And that is my report. Oh, wait. Dan, you were supposed to take over the presidency beginning January. Is that not correct?
That's our normal rotation.
Yeah. So this will be my last meeting as president this time around, and then Dan will start.
Well, you'll get to start the next one.
What's that?
We'll get to start the next one.
Is that how we do it? I can never remember.
I think that's normally how we do it.
I'm hoping somebody has memory of how we conduct the handover.
That was
Okay.
one of the things I was going to talk to Joe about for the agenda for the 6th.
Okay. Sounds good. So that's all I have. So next item on the agenda, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong thing here, is consent agenda. Do we have any changes to consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay, motion to second to approve consent agenda. Please indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye, consent agenda is approved. Unfinished business, clean energy implementation plan presentation and report. Jean.
See if I can get this to share.
And just so everybody knows, I have my next appointment's at 6, so I'm hoping we can end the meeting maybe a few minutes before 6, if possible.
Well, I will do my best.
Thanks, Jean.
Okay. So this is the last part of the CEIP that we're working on to get filed. It's a lot to take in. I tried to break it down so that it's easier for you guys to follow. We talk about indicators, which is what we're going to achieve, and the actions, how we're going to achieve it. The forecast, that is, they mean metrics. So it's the language between the template of the report from Commerce. I'm trying to put it into understandable here. So the forecast metrics, how are we going to track it? What does success look like? Specific actions, describe the programs and the metrics, and equity, how we're making that equitable to highly impacted communities and vulnerable populations. In the attached report, our previous presentation to the board, we had set our target to 5,616 megawatt hours. We've reduced that to 3,600. We wanted to lower that bar to make sure that we can meet that goal. And we're going to do that with our BPA direct rebates, low income weatherization, which we've talked about a little bit, and the USDA Rural Savings Program, the RESP, which we're hoping to have in place around April.
Okay.
Gene, on that megawatt, what calculation did they ask you to utilize to come up with how many megawatts we're going to be reducing by? That number seems large to me for some reason, but again, I'm not involved on that side of the ledger.
So that's over several years, over the rate period, and Kyle can explain the math on it much better because it's based on the deemed savings.
And remember, we're talking megawatt hours, not
Yes.
megawatts. Very, very different.
Yeah, and the reason I ask is I just don't know how close they hold us to whatever we put out there. I don't know how critical that is, of how accurate that number really is, that we're not setting the bar in a place where it puts ourselves in a bind because we miscalculated.
That's why we lowered it.
Exactly. I mean, I felt like I was being a little optimistic, and so I was just basing it off basically what we've been reporting to EIA over the last few years, kind of an average going through this 4-year cycle.
Well, and my back of the napkin math, I used to work in this, side of things. If you converted that to kilowatt hours, which is divided by 1,000, 3,600 kilowatt hours, that might be something you could achieve on an individual house by changing out, changing to a heat pump from electric resistant heat, insulation, various different things. That's the kind of range of power. So my back of the napkin is, okay, multiply that by 1,000. So having the impact of significant savings in 1,000 houses, or twice that much in 500 houses over 3 years. That's kind of how I would look at that. And is that achievable?
Yeah, it's a lot. It's still optimistic.
Yeah, it seemed pretty aggressive to me since we're already as clean as we are. So that's just what concerns me, is we're not setting the bar unachievable for ourselves. I know the state has requirements, but I don't want us helping them out by making our life even more difficult than it needs to be for as clean as we already are.
Well, again, it's not about being clean. This is about inefficient use of energy.
Well, efficient, sorry.
Yeah. Ken. Do you have a question, Ken?
I have a comment. Gene, I'm wondering, in order to achieve the goals we set for low income weatherization, is there a strategy for reaching out to landlords? Because I think very often that goal is hindered by the fact that landlords don't have an incentive to convert properties to more efficient use of electricity because they're not paying the bills.
That is an issue. We talk about this and go circles and circles. Landlords, we want to incentivize them, and it may come down to it with some of these houses I've seen, and we're not there yet, but we could disincentivize it, right? We could stop serving power to homes that were not energy efficient or meeting standards. We have that in our electric rates operations, right? We have that ability. We don't take advantage of it, but we're not there yet. But that is a conversation we'll have to have down the road.
Okay, thank you.
Did you want to keep going with your presentation, Gene?
Yes, please. This is the biggest piece that we haven't really talked about here, and this is the cost of compliance. So the retail power we sell has to be 100% clean. We can offset that, what we purchase from BPA by producing power. But we just don't have power production resources enough to offset that. So we would have to pay for compliance and beginning in 2030 unless BPA gives us cleaner power. And this is based on the cost of credits now and marked up for inflation.
Have you got a number for the credits that we need to acquire?
I don't.
So something to keep in mind is I don't know what the latest count is, but every solar installation in Jefferson County that's owned by an individual is generating, we know how much power they're generating roughly. Those are numbers we should have from the historic when we were keeping track of total production. Those owners own their clean energy credits. We could pay them a very small amount of money per kilowatt hour and own those clean energy credits, and that money then would stay in the county.
Yeah, that is on the table. We have discussed that.
Okay. I hope we do discuss that, because I would much rather have, if we have to buy credits from somebody, I'd rather have it stay in our county.
And I would rather find ways to generate, right? I don't want to pay a fee when we could put money into infrastructure.
Right. Yeah. And we have one solar array on the office that's generating something. It would be. So when is this due?
This report is due on the 1st. We're going to have to file an amendment after the 1st of the year, and we'll get there.
Okay.
It's just not going to be complete.
All right. It would be great to be drilling down into this for the next meeting to know more about what targets we have to meet, whether that's generation of power and how clean energy credits can, how many clean energy credits you need to offset, a certain amount of power. So you could give us enough information so we could have a meaningful discussion about it.
Yeah, and this is going to have to be an ongoing conversation over the next 4 years as well.
Okay.
So, and again, so kind of like the last question I asked is how married to these numbers the state may hold us as far as revenues, and like the cost to purchase power is the one I'm looking at the closest because of the BPA rate increases that we know are coming. And then again, in 29 or 30, there will be another rate increase. We have a surcharge that's been added now. I just want to make sure that we feel comfortable. Is it better to be lower or to be higher with these, like the cost of purchase power, so we don't, how does it affect your calculation for the greenhouse gas compliance expense?
And I'll ask an add-on, or is it really just how much of the BPA power we're receiving is not carbon free?
That is it. So
that's it.
7% that is not carbon free that we have to offset.
So if they cleaned up their power and had it less than 10%, we'd have a lower dollar figure there.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. And if we had programs like community solar, I mean, we've looked at the WSU grants for that. We could get generation from that to try and offset some of the compliance expense.
Okay. And those are the kinds of things too. If we had a community solar program, that would be a way of using customers' money who want to invest. They would be choosing to invest their money to help pay for the solar. And depending on how we did it, if we could, I mean, there's different ways to do community solar. That was just one, but there may be ways that we can leverage money that people want to spend. And we're not having to charge our customers for it, and we're not having to spend it out of our own general funds. I think this just requires some further discussion, because I don't want to see us just have another line item. Oh, we got to come up with another $1.1 million every year. That's not a good result, I think.
That doesn't sit well with me either, Jeff.
Yeah, and if we're in these numbers, I kind of equate that to future budgets where, we have to kind of marry this to that. That's what we think these are going to be. I just want to throw out there on the cost of purchase power in particular. That's the one that really keeps me awake, is because with the new contract going to tier 2 power, we're already close to our high water mark. We're going to see increased cost in our power. There's almost no doubt about it. So I just want to make sure we're keeping that in mind as we, anytime, whether it's in the budget or these type of calculations for other services or other compliance we have to do, that cost of purchase power, we're really watching that one close.
Yeah, and you're right, Dan, that will change and it'll probably go up. Okay, Gene, you got more?
So we are going to be reducing energy burden, supporting energy security and resiliency. Environmental best benefits will come out of this plan and some economic development. These are the different categories that you will see listed in the pink in the report that was attached with this. And this just puts it in a way that's easier for you to read to go along with that report.
Okay.
So the low income weatherization end of next year, that's the one where we want to look at selling our fuel credits to fund. And that's where we're going to hit the insulation and efficiency just really hard.
Okay.
Another quick question on the RESP. Are we marketing that? Are we starting to talk about that in a way to let people know? Because we're showing second quarter of going with that, and it's been on the.
Not marketing that because we don't know when we're getting the money.
Okay. Just curious if we're preparing people for that to start taking advantage of that.
So what are we waiting for on that? Receiving the money for that program?
We that was with finance, and we were waiting for the government closure, I believe.
To end. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's something in Amanda's.
We're
lap.
waiting on final documentation from RUS on that. We still haven't gotten the final loan document.
Okay. Ken.
So I noticed that the plan is discussion of interest and data requirements in order to implement time of use billing. And it's the target is 2028. Personally, I'd like to see a more aggressive target for that we implement that sooner. We spent several $1 million on AMI meters that will, among other things, enable that. And having done recently a little bit of research on the effectiveness of time of use, there's no question that it will reduce the probability of our going into tier 2 rates with Bonneville, because that's the experience that other utilities have had having implemented time of use metering. So again, I would hope that we would set that as a target considerably sooner rather than later.
So your thoughts on that, Ken, are they could help us reduce our peak loads, help reduce the times when we're having to dip into tier 2 power and higher costs?
Exactly.
Okay.
So is it the board's thoughts end of 26, beginning of 27? Would that be better?
I guess I would state it as the board is saying, and Dan, do you agree generally?
I don't, as long as staff has the capacity and the general manager, it's in, on his way, he wants to move forward with particular things. I don't have an objection to it. I am a skeptic on time of use. I don't know how much it's going to affect our overall power usage or not. I'm still skeptical of how much energy we put it, no puns intended, how much energy and time we put into that for what kind of return we're going to get. I dubious to me, but I'm all for what every gentleman think is moving forward on a timeline.
Yeah, and I think I've talked to Joe Wilson about this a little bit, and I think he's interested in things that help reduce stress on the system. I think he's also interested in saving money. So I think this would be, Gene, we'd be just sharing with you that I think we feel like it's a priority to include time of use in whether it's discussions with FCS or Joe spending time thinking about it. What would be a reasonable time that Joe would need for the PUD to work on this and develop a plan to move forward and not wait, as Ken's saying, until 2028 or 2029. Start working sooner than later, because this does take some time, I think, to evaluate what are you trying to do and how are you going to do it, and then getting some feedback on, okay, these are the likely results, so you don't have really unanticipated results.
I'm happy to move that up.
Okay, thanks, Gene.
Are there any other questions on the proposed measures? I don't want to take a bunch of time and go through each and every one of them.
I don't think we have time for that either. I guess my question is, are there penalties for us taking the time to get this right or asking for, to submit an amended plan? How does the state review what we send in? And
It's not going to be, well, it's not going to be good. We did not have a demand response in our last CEIP from 2022. We didn't have a demand response plan, and we still don't have one. We are working on an analysis. So that's already setting us back. And that's what will have to come back to Commerce after January 1.
okay.
Prior to that, on time, we can submit everything, the energy efficiency goals, this part, everything but the demand response.
And I kind of wonder to what extent demand response and time of use rates might be connected.
Quite a bit.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Is that the end of this item for you?
Yeah.
Any more questions from the board?
Okay, so we need a motion to approve the 2026 Jefferson County Public Utility District Clean Energy Implementation Plan and to submit it prior to January 1, 2026.
Okay, Gene suggested a motion. Do we have that motion?
So I'll make a motion to approve the 2026 Jefferson County Public Utility District Number 1 Clean Energy, what was it?
Clean Energy
Implementation Plan.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye. Thank you for your work, Gene, and we look forward to seeing more of this, and it sounds like it's been a pretty big lift.
But it's been fun.
Okay, good. Learning lots. All right, next, 2026 broadband rates and policies.
And now for no fun, back to broadband rates, which has been a controversial topic. We brought this to the staff last meeting. As said before, staff is comfortable with the current rates, but we sharpened our pencils and think we can reduce a couple of products. And we wanted to clean up just a little bit of language in the policy and on the rate sheet in general. So the major changes are renaming the low income rates to residential assist 1 and 2, creating an enterprise category that has the transport and a bundled transit, which is transport plus internet, removing the co-location because we do not have a good enough situation to have a secure in and out access for contracted vendors or for leases. And I think the last couple of things were just language changes from equipment return charge to equipment non-return charge, that sort of thing.
Okay, so I'm going to start with, is that the end of your initial presentation?
Correct.
Okay, I was just going to ask commissioners initially, do we have any questions at this point? I had one. Will, looking at the agenda report, one of the things you've got proposed in there is 3-year and 5-year contracts for those services, and if somebody commits to that service for a period of years, they get a lower rate. Could you talk about that a little bit and what your thoughts are in what the terms of those contracts will be, or if that's work that has to be done? Could maybe just talk about that a little bit?
No, those are just modified versions of our service agreements, and this would just be committing to a 3-year contract. We've not wanted to do that before in the past because we knew that the rates were more of a living document. We wanted to make some adjustments and try some things early on as we set these programs up. We feel more comfortable now with offering a 3 and 5-year discounts for contracted rates, and that's industry standard.
Okay, and how does it work? This is a question that came up. How does this work if you've got a contract and say you want to change your service but retain, you still want to be a PUD customer, but you want, say, a higher level of service? How does that work?
If you want, that would be a new contract or an amended contract possibly.
Could you amend the contract? You've got a 3-year contract, you've got 1 gig
Joel,
service.
that'd be a better question for Joel, honestly.
Okay.
Typically in that case, I mean, my experience, and I'd have to look at what our form is that you have termination liability if you just terminate the contract within, let's say it's a 3-year contract prior to the end of the term. But if you decide to re-up and extend and either remain the same or increase the amount of service you need, then, we're open to that. It wouldn't be considered termination. You wouldn't be subject to any termination liability.
Okay, so it's clear that the client wants to retain a relationship. He just wants to alter the relationship. That's something that you would then negotiate
Yeah, I
with
mean,
staff.
it's a question of termination liability at that point. And if you
Okay.
continue to be a customer, there's no termination.
Okay. Well, I don't have any more questions. Dan, I don't know if you want to see
Yeah.
if there's public comment in the room
I've got
or
a
if you have
couple
questions. Okay,
I got
go
some
ahead.
questions real quick, and these are probably more for Joel than for Will. Just to preemptively look at, where we might be headed here. So are any of these changes prejudicial or discriminatory? I mean, are we comfortable that these rates are fair, basically? Are they fair and equitable
Yeah.
for the services or the access that we're supplying?
Yes. That
Okay.
we're not discriminating against one customer over another or one level of service over another.
Because we've discussed these several times now, so I just want to be clear.
It's a fair question. Yeah.
Before we move forward. And then the other one kind of plays off of that a little bit. And do these rates in any way give JPUD retail broadband department any unfair advantages? Do we?
No unfair advantages at all.
Okay. Just preemptively asking those couple questions. And we've got legal counsel's advice on it. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Dan. Appreciate it.
Dan, do you want to go ahead and go to public comment on this one?
Anybody? Leo?
So, as far as the rates are concerned, I brought this up before. So there's this aggregation portion, right, that others don't charge. So that'd be my portion that I pay you guys currently from my office in Port Hadlock here to Four Corners Road. That's the aggregation. All my services, all my pawn customers, everything comes back to this one connection at Four Corners Road and then to my facilities. Nobody else charges a fee for that. I currently pay $150 a month. If I want that continue on come January 1st, I have to pay $2,000 a month, say, for that particular connection. I think that really does, and nobody else charges it. Kitsap PUD doesn't charge it. I have a copy of the 2026 KPUD, and it's on note 4 of the rate sheet. It specifically says that retail service providers allocated an aggregation port with unlimited bandwidth, and that's at no cost. So that portion, there is no fee. And that lets you be competitive, because if I have to pay, for that portion, and then, like I explained at the last meeting, all of a sudden, for me to provide service to my pawn customer, I'm looking at paying on my side alone like $125 a month. Then I got to mark it up, right? I can't compete when you're charging 75. I mean, you're going to pay me 125 if you go to the PUD and only pay 75. I really do think that's giving the PUD a big advantage when it comes to price. So I think that portion, the aggregation, should not cost the service provider. They should do just like they do with Ziply, Astound, everybody else. That portion, and it's not just PUDs, it's not just open access networks. It's major providers, CenturyLink, Ziply, Astound. That portion, I do not pay Astound from my facilities to Astound to get that to my Astound customers. I think the PUD should be the same way.
You got,
That's keeping it
you got 30
competitive.
seconds left if you need more time.
So that's keeping it competitive.
Okay. Any other comments? Anybody online? Not seeing any hands up online. So I'll throw it back to you, Jeff. I don't know if we want any more staff involvement.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. I had a few questions and a few thoughts, and so I did have a conversation with Leo, and I am trying to understand this aggregation issue, and I just did a search just now to see if aggregation pops up in the proposed rates, and I see on, this is page 7 of the broadband service policies, page 94 of the packet, at the bottom of the page, under other items, internet access metered, the last sentence says, a similar but separate table is used for the aggregation port with JPUD internet product. And I don't know, that was I think that's the only spot where aggregation popped up. So Will, do you have any response to Leo's concern about a aggregation charge?
His characterization is not accurate to how it's structured on our system. So
Same.
there's we sell transport circuits. We have a couple options if you're a wholesale PON customer. You can bring your data back to your facility either through dedicated internet, metered internet, or the way or you can use transport. And there are multiple ways to do that with multiple different price points. The prices range, and you just have to make it work for your business.
Are you familiar with what Leo was saying regarding Kitsap's policies on aggregation, that they don't charge for it?
It's a different methodology than we're using, and they have slightly different rates.
Okay. Well, my response to Leo was, personally, I'd like to see us adopt these rate changes because they lower the rates tonight. I still have some more questions, and I think this is going to be a living document that we have to keep updating. It's a new line of business. There will be, and this to me is one of those questions that I don't know if we're going to get answered tonight. A concern I have, and I'm going to go back to that memo because you've got right up front the agenda report. Get back to that first page where you list the new proposed rates. So currently we've got them at 100 megabytes, $150, up to 10 gig, $2,000. The proposed rates drop it from $150 to $125 for 100 megabytes, and at the 10 gig level down from $2,000 to $1,750, and then you've got multi-years can lower it further. So I think that's headed in the right direction. One of the customers, I'm kind of calling these things our legacy customers that we served with the what, I don't know if we called it point-to-point, whatever our prior terminology was, is the Seventh Haven Apartments managed by Olicap. And I realized that the service they've been getting is 10 gig. That would be a significant increase to go from, even under the new rates, $150 a month to $1,750 a month. And I realized that Leo is their ISP, and Leo would be working with them to choose, are they going to stay with that same product or are they going to go to a lesser speed? And the question I had with Joel, and what Leo told me was his recommendation to Olicap would be to go with the 1 gig, which would be at $450 a month, which is roughly $300 more than what they're paying now, that they would then have to find funds for or increase the cost to their renters. And in talking to Joel, one of the options he brought up is, well, you need to have your rates be non-discriminatory and presumably market-based, but there is an exception for low-income customers. You can have differential rates for low-income customers, and we do have differential rates for low-income customers built into our broadband rate. So I'm wondering, I guess I'm directing this to staff and Joel, could we have a low-income rate built into this table for something like Seventh Haven, where a condition of occupying those units is that it's a low-income individual? So I guess Joel.
The short answer to that is you can do that.
Okay.
But I think I guess I'd recommend, implementing these rates to see how they work and see if that's necessary.
Okay. And I did call, Leo did provide me the name of the person who manages the program, the Seventh Haven Apartments for OLECAP. I gave her a call. She did not respond. Leo thought she might be traveling right now, so we don't fully know the impact. Anyway, that's something. I don't want to have a negative impact to, for example, those customers, because we got them housed. OLECAP is under tremendous pressure from reductions in their funding. I don't want to cause problems for them. So I don't know, Will, do you have any thoughts?
No, I agree with Joel that commissioners certainly have the right to create a low income discount, but this is a commercial product. Transport is a commercial product for enterprise customers.
So I guess my question would be, if it is serving a low income facility that we know is a low income facility and everybody in there is a low income customer.
Yeah, then that would be up to the discretion of the commissioners and Joel. But for now, we're trying to create non-preferential rates for enterprise customers is our goal today.
Right. Well, I'll just be blunt. I think I would like. I'm looking for direction, or do we have agreement with the board? I would like to direct staff to develop that rate, because we know that one of those customers is everybody in that building's low income. And not saying what that rate is, but you could look at, okay, what discount are we giving to our pawn, low income customers compared to what they would normally pay? What's the percentage?
The issue, Jeff, is we're not selling this to the low income customers. We're selling this to a business.
To an ISP who is then serving those low income customers.
Understood.
Yeah. So I guess maybe it's a question for staff and our attorney. Is there a way that we could structure something that would help protect those customers?
And just to be clear, you mean without benefiting the private enterprise company that stands between the PUD and the low-income customers?
Yeah, that the benefit flows to the customers.
Directly to the customer, and not necessarily whomever the ISP is.
Right.
Yes. Happy to work with staff on trying to come up with something that makes sense.
Do the other commissioners agree with that direction?
I think go ahead, Ken.
Yeah, I agree with that direction. I'd like to see if it's possible to reduce the rate for the low income housing folks. But I think staff needs to work on that with legal counsel to see what's possible.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm fine with that approach.
Leo, I know these are your customers. I don't know if you have any follow-up you'd like to make.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, you guys offer the retail service providers discounts for low-income customers on the PON network. So I don't see how that's, that you're selling me a PON connection for a low-income customer. I don't see how that's any different selling me a transport connection to an apartment building that's strictly low-income tenants. So I don't see any difference. Don't see any difference in that. And also, Will said that the type of connection that I get from Kitsap PUD, it's down CenturyLink or whoever, Ziply, is different than the type as far as the aggregation goes with your guys' sites.
Hey, Leo, let's not bring up the aggregation right now.
Right.
So what I'm hearing you say though is that the logic that we're applying to the retail low income rate, we could apply the same logic here. That's what I heard you say. Okay. Well, I don't really have any further I don't have any further discussion on the broadband rates. I would like to move ahead with the changes because I think they're going in the right direction. I think we have more work to do on them. Other board members, your thoughts?
So I'd like to move, since we are looking at going in the right direction, I'd like to make a motion to approve the resolution that rescinds the previous rates and agreements and adopts new and revised rates, charges, and policies for retail and wholesale broadband services as presented.
Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion. I have some discussion.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Let's go to discussion.
So timeline, these rates were set to go in on January 1st or whatever. Is that going to impact broadband department's ability to bill? Because we don't have any more meetings between now and then. If we set these rates now, we obviously are going to have staff working on some stuff. What do we see as far as the billing for January? How's this going to impact the billing?
So Jennifer and I have discussed it earlier today. It may be that we don't get all of the billing entered until the month of February, and then the January changes would be back billed.
So you could do a correction billing in the second month, and that sometimes happens. Yeah.
Just so that finance, customer service, everybody's on the same page here as to what our timeline looks like and what kind of the drop dead deadlines are for us to make decisions before it snowballs and we end up stretching things out and making a real nightmare on paper for everybody to get it sorted out. That's my only question.
Okay, so the rates would go into effect. The billing might take a billing cycle or two to catch up and correct everything. Okay. Any further discussion? Let's call the question. All in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye. All right, motion's approved. Thank you, Will, and thank you, Leo. We'll keep working together on this stuff. Next.
We have Jose next.
Jose, waiting a long time for your turn. So we have the interlocal agreement, Port Hadlock UGA sewer system.
Yes, sir. So there's an amendment for section 16.6 on the negotiated costs for the interlocal agreement with the county for the Hadlock sewer system. As it reads now, the county reimbursed us for 50% of a certified operator to run that plant. The amendment is to add an additional coverage from the county of 100% of a secondary operator. This has gone to the county, signed by their board, and hoping to sign from you guys.
Yeah, and I remember, we went to the ribbon cutting, and we've heard a couple of times now that the staffing, based on the design of the system, it requires more staffing, and that the county understands this. So this is a mutually agreeable modification. That's what I'm hearing you say.
Correct. There's Department of Ecology requirements for that plant that weren't seen a couple years ago when this was drafted. And as the permitting for the facility has been finalized, one of the requirements is 24/7 monitoring for it. And an additional staff is required.
Okay. Dan, can you see if there's any hands in the room? I guess any other commissioner questions at this point?
Not seeing any hands.
Okay, no hands in the room, so no comments or questions on this item. Going once, going twice. All right, I'll entertain a motion. What do we have before us here?
So the motion would be that the board approve the interlocal agreement for the Port Hadlock UGA sewer system administration, operations, and maintenance between Jefferson County and Jefferson County Public Utility District Number 1.
All right. So we have a motion before us to authorize the board, the general manager, to sign it and the amendment. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Motion and a second. All in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye. That is approved. Thank you, Jose.
Thank you, guys.
Back to the top here. And the next item is Marrowstone Island tree trimming. Is that right? No.
No.
Oh, no.
9.2.
Pre-qualification 2026 poll test and treat. Jean.
Yes. So, Washington state law and JPUD procurement manual requires that the district maintain a list of pre-qualified bidders for electrical facility construction, maintenance, or improvement. We have received 6 pre-qualifications of electrical contractors. I'm talking backwards, I'm sorry. Anyway, so we need a motion from the board to add the aforementioned contractors to the pre-qualified contractors list.
Okay. Do we have any commissioner questions on this one? Do we have any questions from the public? Seeing none. Let's see. So can we have go ahead, Dan.
I'll make the motion to add the aforementioned contractors in today's packet to the pre-qualified contractors list for electrical facility construction, maintenance, or improvements per RCW 54.04.080 and RCW 54.04.085.
All right. We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a second. All in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes. Next one is bid award, Marrowstone Island tree trimming. Looks like Jean's up again.
So this project is going to focus on Chimicum Feeder 11 on Marrowstone Island along Flagler Road. Chimicum Feeder 11 experiences the highest number of interruption hours in our system. Let's see. Funding for the project comes from vegetation management budget. The estimated cost was $330,000. Xylem One LLC's bid came in at $377,636.
Okay. And I have a question. How many responsive bids did we get on this one, or do we know?
Did you see that one at all? No, we don't know right now. I can get back to you with that, Jeff.
You know, it's okay. It just is going to cost what it costs, and this is the time of year we want to get things done to keep the system reliable, and the best thing to do is to help pay the bills is to keep the power on. So I'm in favor of this. Any other questions from the board?
No, but your question was a good one. Maybe for future reference for staff that we get the background information on those bid awards so we do know, just get in the habit so that commissioners are well informed.
Yeah, and typically I think we commonly get that. There'll be like a little table and it'll say, here's the bidders, here's what they bid, and then we can ask, hey, why wasn't this one responsive? And I think that builds a better record. Do we have any questions from the public?
Not seeing any hands.
Okay.
I don't see anything online.
So I will move that the board authorize the general manager or designee to enter into a contract with Xylem One LLC for the State Route 116 Marrowstone Island tree trimming project, bid number 25 ELE 0804.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
A second.
All in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye. So Ken, you should get more reliable power pretty soon, and everybody else on Marrowstone Island
Therefore,
too.
he's going to want that in writing.
Okay, then it looks like the last one is bid award tree trimming dock crew.
Okay, yes. So this is again tree trimming dock crew. The bid should be awarded to DJ's Electrical. Their bid was $656,110. And they should be the dock crew for 2026, 2027.
Okay, and this is an example where one sometimes comes in under bid, so we save a little money. Did we have any commissioner questions on this one?
What areas does this apply to?
This is our dock crew. They would be a dock crew. They would go where needed.
Okay.
So this is kind of responding to things that are falling down in storms and
Yes.
okay, problems that come up. Okay. Any questions from the public? If not, can I have a motion?
So I'll make a motion to authorize the general manager or the designee to enter into a contract with DJ's Electrical Incorporated for the tree trimming dock crew 2026-2027 project, bid number 25 ELE0805.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye. All right. Well, we have completed our business, I believe, because we took the last item off the agenda. So we're done with that, and somebody needs to figure out when we have our first meeting in January what the procedure is to pass the gavel over to the new president. If I open it and pass it over, I'm fine doing it that way, unless somebody has a better idea.
I think Shannon and Joe are probably doing some research on it.
Okay. Okay. And this is our last scheduled meeting, correct, before the end of the year. So I just want to wish everybody and their families good time together and close out 2025. So thank you, everybody, and have a good night. We are adjourned.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Happy holidays to you all.
Happy holidays.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we probably should have talked about, do you have a